Now, our next speaker is Sharon Critchlow, Director at Discover Your Bounce, a personal development and wellness provider. She's a qualified accountant with over 20 years' experience in senior leadership roles and growing successful businesses in the financial services sector. Now a qualified coach and mentor, Sharon is passionate about people becoming the best that they can be and allowing their true talents to shine. Please give a warm welcome to Sharon Critchlow.
Well, isn't it wonderful to see you all here today? I mean, how long have we waited to all get together? So I'm here to ask you, how do you take care of you? And if I was to ask you this 2 or 3 years ago, I'm sure that you would have had a different answer to today. So I'm also going to ask you, how do you take care of your teams? And has that changed? Because one of the things I've noticed is that it hasn't changed for everybody, but maybe it needs to. There's a report that came out over the summer, a report that was done by ACCA and IFAC, which had a look at Gen Z. And if you're thinking, who's Gen Z? Yeah, that's not like Jay-Z. This is a generation, like I'm an X and all the rest of it. So these are the people that are just coming out of university now. So these are the people that, if you like, are going to be the majority of the people that you're going to be looking for training roles. So ACCA and IFAC did some research. We spoke to 9,000 of them and said, well, what do you think is important? What makes a really good employer? What are you looking for in your career? And interestingly, 51% of them are saying that actually they're a bit concerned about mental health and that they want an emphasis on being taken care of from that aspect. And we've noticed, and the CIPD has done research that says that 3 in 5 companies have had an increase in issues around mental health in the last 2 years. So that's a lot of people that are concerned, whether they're telling you or not, that are concerned. And in fact, 1 in 4 of us here today will experience a common mental health condition at some point in our lives. And when I say a common mental health condition, I mean anxiety, depression, bipolar, something like that. And it could be mild, it could be severe. So when managers and business owners say to me, I don't really want to talk to people about mental health, I feel a bit uncomfortable with that, I say, do you know what, you're already having that conversation. You've got a team of 10 people, I can guarantee at least 2 of them have got something, and if they're not telling you about it, how are you going to plan for the future? And how are you going to impress them? How are you going to actually give them the career that they deserve? And how are you going to attract more top talent? Other statistics that came out from this particular report also said that 48% want good work-life balance. Now, there must be people here who qualified around the time I did, which was 1995. And during those times, if anybody had said, do you want good work-life balance? Everyone would go, yeah, I'll put my hand up for that one, I'd like that, please. And they'd be like, well, yeah, good luck. Good luck with that, big pile of work, get on with it. But these days, there is a real battle for talent. And if you haven't noticed it already, when you're looking to take people on, these are some of the things that these graduates are looking for from you. They want reassurance about these things. And the thing is, unlike when I went into accountancy and you had to go down the local newspaper and have a look and apply for things, they can work anywhere in the world. So you're all of a sudden in competition, not just with whoever's in your high street or convenient for them, but you are in competition with everybody. So it's always worth thinking when people say, my father, obviously, older generation again, well-being and things like that got to do with business. Well, do you want it to thrive? Do you want your pick of who's really good? Do you want those people to be able to excel in the environment that you've given them? Or are you just going to go down the old route of just giving them way too much stuff, flog it till they leave? And the choice, of course, will be yours. How's everyone doing? Stressed? Anybody been a bit busy? Bit busy recently? I've looked at some of the things that have been piled upon us in the accounting sector in the last couple of years, and it's not just been the fact that there's been, no doubt, some good businesses that you've been advising for years who've gone to the wall because of this pandemic. But how many clients have actually taken you to one side and said, actually, things aren't good at home, or this hasn't worked, or that's not worked, and you've turned into counsellors, whether you realise it or not. And so have a lot of your staff. So when you think about this, what's, stress? We've all had stress. But what's the real impact of that on their businesses and on your business? And what are you doing to try and help your team and yourself to be able to deal with it? So the CIPD did, I do like a bit of research, you'll notice that, lots of statistics. So the CIPD did some research on, well, what happens when you're a bit stressed? And then what happens when you go into overwhelm? So when you've got stress upon stress upon stress, you might be familiar with this. If you're not, give it a few weeks. Nice deadline coming up there. So what happens when you're stressed? So if you've got a team of 10 people and they're overloaded, overworked, and it's just, they've got tax returns coming out their ears, 8 of them will struggle to concentrate. And you might think, actually, when I feel a bit stressed, I find it quite hard to concentrate. Even though you know you've got a deadline, you know you've got to really hit the numbers, literally, and you could be sat there thinking, but I can't get my head around it, I can't make it work. And that's not unusual. But 6 out of 10 take longer to do their work. Now, if you're on fixed contracts with some of your clients, that's not good news. You're paying for that. And also, half of them are likely to get a bit snappy with the people around them. And that's not good customer service. Because same as your staff can go and work anywhere in the world, to be honest, your clients could go and have an accountant anywhere in the world too. So have a think about that, because 3 out of 10 are likely to just start picking on each other. But also, this is a good way of looking at, if this is happening in your organisation, or if you're recognising it in yourself, then what are you going to do about it? Because this is a real, we've always had stress. Business has always been hard, hasn't it? But it's just got harder. And the emphasis and the focus of what people want and what people expect has shifted hugely in the last 2 years. So what I'd like to talk about today is, how do we get more of this? Anybody here been watching Strictly? I did have a little bit of a dance around the kitchen on Saturday. Not a good idea, to be fair. But we want more of this, don't we? Because life is actually about enjoying ourselves. It's about being really good at what we do. It's about fulfilling our purpose. But it's not about having nothing left at the end of the day for yourself. So you might think, why is an accountant telling me this? Well, I had one of those life-changing experiences, as they say. About 10 years ago, I'd done, 8, 9 years in public practice, and I'd gone into industry. And that was quite interesting. I thought, I get my hands on a business. And it was on its knees, and we did all the good things that everyone here would know how to do. And I had to learn, because I was quite young, and I thought, right, well, I'm up for this. I'm really going to do this. And about 5 years in, things were going really good. And I woke up one morning and I thought, I feel a bit sick. And then I thought, I can't eat anything. Now, as you can see from me, wonderful curves that they are, eating things is something I do a lot of. But I didn't feel like eating anything, and that was very unusual. And then things moved on. And a couple of days later, I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm still not eating very much because I still feel a bit sick. And I phoned my GP, and he said, it sounds like you've got a stomach virus. Very common, a lot of it going around at the moment. So because I hadn't really eaten anything, I felt quite exhausted. Well, you would, wouldn't you? And the logical brain says, that's all right, I'll get over it, and it'll be fine. Ooh, and who knows, I could even slip into those genes. We've all got them. Those genes you can't put on. I thought, I'll be able to put it to those. Brilliant. The problem is that wasn't quite how it worked for me. So another week went by, my appetite returned, my energy tanked. Another week went by, and I started to get lots of pains in my legs, and my legs actually, peculiarly enough, started to feel a little bit wobbly. And I thought, well, I don't like this. And I went back to my GP, and he said, sounds like you've got chronic fatigue. Now, anybody here who knows anyone who's had COVID will be familiar perhaps with long COVID, something very similar to that. And I thought, oh, this isn't good. Now, in those days, they didn't have a task force to try and find out why Sharon wasn't feeling great. And so I was basically told to give up work, go home. And I thought, you know what, it's not happening. That's not happening, because I did not work my way up from being a cleaner to getting qualified at ACCA at 23 to be told at 33 to game over. No, that wasn't happening. But life was not great. And I didn't have a compass for how do I mend myself in this situation. I knew I had to make some decisions because life had just dealt me one. I knew there would be no children because I couldn't dress myself, let alone anything else. I knew that I couldn't move jobs because I knew the job I was doing really well, but alongside all of the energy and fatigue issues came memory issues. Interestingly, my technical stuff, right on the nail. Names, forget it. But I thought, what am I going to do? So what I actually did is I tried lots of different things. I started to focus on, well, if I can't make myself totally well like this, and everybody comes up with these wonderful things, oh, if you're exhausted, you need to do exercise. Right, so that was 2.5 minutes on a treadmill before I face planted and became a little bit of a, first aider's nightmare in the gym. So I thought, well, that's probably not the answer. But what could I do? And it was from that the Four Elements started to come about. Because a few years after I'd really kind of worked out what I needed to do to make myself well again, I met a lady called Nikki Marshall. And she had had a stroke at 40 through stress. And all of her left-hand side of her body had given way. And she couldn't do anything. She couldn't drive, she couldn't stand up, she couldn't walk. And I thought, this sounds very familiar. But she said, well, actually, as we're having a coffee one day, she said, well, this is what I did. And I said, funnily enough, that's what I did as well. And so the Four Elements and Discover Your Bounce was born. So these are the Four Elements. And as you'll notice from this, when we talk about well-being, particularly in a work environment, people go mental health, mental health first aiders. That's the obvious first stop. So yes, mental health does come into it, acknowledging it, understand it, do things that mean that you don't have to use a first aider, do things to ensure that you are mentally capable of bouncing back, because that's what resilience is about. It's not about life not happening to you. It's about what you do when it does happen to you. And it will happen to all of us, and we've all survived a pandemic. So we know a bit about resilience, we know things change, we know we make decisions. And the question is then, how do you get that zinginess back into your life? So yeah, mental calm and resilience is one of them. The next thing is body, and everyone says, and quite rightly so, getting up and moving a bit, good idea. And we'll have a little look into the other things that you can do there that will help you and your team. But the third thing that people often forget, and I think maybe due to the pandemic, we may actually have learned something from this one, is what I call spirit. And that is connection, and it's connectivity. And spirit is the thing that says, I need to be creative. Now, should I be encouraging accountants to be creative? Oh, absolutely. Because how many things have been put at your door in the last couple of years where you've thought, yeah, I don't really know anything about that, but I'll read up and I'll find a solution for you. How many times have your clients come to you and said, the bank says there's no more money and I need to do something, and you've thought, right, let's have a look at it, let's see what we can do. That is creativity. And if you are stressed and you're one of the 8 in 10 who can't concentrate, you know what? You're not going to do a great job of that. And I know you want to do a great job of that. So being creative, practicing being creative, practicing community, these are things actually was my first step to getting well again. Because I knew that my body didn't work. And I knew actually one of my greatest successes, I'm able to stand here now. Because to be honest, Standing up was a bit tricky. And actually standing up for more than 10 minutes, that was never going to happen. So I knew that I had to find another way. And I did it through singing, because I could do it sitting down. But it was a physical thing. But different people will find other things that will be the trigger that will help them to make that change. And then one of the biggest things I think makes a difference, and it's something as accountants we know in a business you want to make a difference, you've got to do, and that's have a vision. In businesses, we call it business plans. But actually, for all of us, having a vision means that you do have a pathway. It means you can discern what's right for you and what isn't. But how many of us actually look at it like that? Or how many of us just go, oh, God, way too much, it's all a bit naff, I'm knackered. And how many of us actually look at ourselves and go, do you know what? I need to do some of this because I need to be the best that I can be in order to be the accountant that everybody needs. And to be able to deserve everything that's thrown at me, to be able to deal with it and still have a wonderful life. So these are the 4 elements of well-being. Now, of course, it starts, particularly if you're a bit stressed now, with recognizing and understanding what's really going on here and what's going on in your team as well. Because not everybody will tell you, because people hide it. And particularly when it comes to mental health, particularly when it comes to anxieties, people just get a bit worried. They don't want to tell you. They think that you're going to think less of them. And I look around here and I don't think any of you would think less of them. You'd welcome their honesty. You'd want to take care of them. But do they know that? And do you recognize when you can start to have that conversation? Because this is one of the things people say to me. They're like, do I walk in the office on Monday morning and go, right, everyone, tell me about your mental health? Probably not going to work. Although give it a go, I don't know, it might work. So we thought was, anxiety. How do you know? How do you know to recognize this? Now, some of these things are very physical things that you've probably recognized in yourself. So whether that's sort of butterfly feeling in your stomach or that sort of thing, or IBS and things like this, very physical things. But there are very behavioral things as well that you can spot in your team. Procrastination. You've given them what you think is going to be a great step-up job for them to do, and it's still not being done. Fear of failure. That comes from, typically, procrastination. But procrastination can be a sign of anxiety. When I was doing my master's in strategic performance coaching, I had a really clean kitchen. Because every morning I'd get up and go, right, I'm going to do the dissertation, but first I need to do the windows, inside and out. I need to do the floor. I need to do all of this stuff. And of course, I didn't need to do it at all. But this was me not wanting to commit pen to paper or fingers to keyboards. Because what if it's not good enough? I've been working up to this, what if it's not good enough? So, and I recognized that in myself, obviously, because I was about to do a dissertation on it. But a lot of people don't recognize what it is. They're just putting everything else in the way. So what else is it that can come about with anxiety you can recognize now that can give you that gateway to have that conversation? So needing reassurance. Do you have people in your life that drive you mad and say, it is 3:30 we're meeting, isn't it? And you think, yep, told you 5 times now. Yep, sent you the email, sent you the text message. You've got the calendar invite. Yep, we're meeting at 3:30. Needing reassurance is something that can be a great sign of anxiety too. Because they don't want to get it wrong. They don't want to let you down. They don't want to let themselves down. So this is, again, is another thing that you may well spot in yourself, or you may well spot in your families, and certainly in your teams. So have a look and have a think about, well, what are these things? Memory loss. There's lots of reasons why people have memory loss. Stress is a great one. Anxiety is another one. It's that fuddled mind. So let's have a think about, we've had to think about the issues surrounding us potentially. What are we going to do about it? So is your mind full? Is it like a load of spaghetti that's just going, I don't know, it's just another thing now, I've got to go and talk to people about well-being? Or are you mindful and zen? So put your hands up if you are mindful and zen today. We got any mindful and zen? Oh, we've got a few. We've got a few that have just relaxed into it today. Brilliant. And how many people have just gone, I don't know, there's so much to take in, I don't know, it's all a bit And actually, having that busy brain, it can mean that we spot some things, but we miss a lot of other things that we could do. So we get obsessed with the stuff we're good at, and we forget to expand into the things that we could be good at in our businesses. So when I get very sort of mindful, the first thing I do is our VAT, because obviously that needs doing, doesn't it? Now, probably not. Comfort zones, that's about. So I go straight back to the books, totally comfortable there. But actually, we all progress as individuals when we push those boundaries a little bit. Not when we go into total panic zone, which, first week in January, you've got a load of deadlines looming, so you've decided, oh yeah, what I need to do is go to the gym 5 days a week and only eat salad. Not that sort of panic zone, and then by day 2, you're like, no, I'm having a glass of wine and getting over myself. So it's not that sort of panic, although that does happen. This is about, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to face the day when lots of things get thrown at me? And how can I do that in a way that means that I can give the best of me every time? Because I can guarantee, having spoken to a lot of accountants in the last couple of years, you've heard some real heartbreaking stories. Nobody told you that was going to happen, but you're trusted. You're all trusted, and for good reason. So I'm sure everyone here has heard from people that have just said, yeah, this has happened and that's why the business is struggling. And your heart goes out to them. And you put the phone down, or you close your Zoom call. Next one's up. Here we go again. So what I do in between of these things is a bit of mindfulness. Now, you've probably heard of mindfulness. You've probably sort of thought, yeah, it's something to do with colouring in. But you don't have to take lots and lots of time to do mindfulness. And these are things you can do in 5 seconds or 10 seconds or a minute, in between meetings, in between, just trying to settle, get the old things out of your head so that you can really bring the good stuff back in. So the first thing we've got here is breathing. Now, you were doing it anyway. And don't tell me you weren't, because you were doing it anyway. So I'm going to teach you a little breathing technique. And it's something that I use quite often in high-stress situations, like coming up on here in front of lots of lovely people like yourself. And so what I do is I center myself. What I mean by that is I'll have both feet equally on the ground. Because we go around all a bit lopsided, don't we, in a little bit. And then I breathe. And I take a deep breath in for the count of 4. And then I hold it for a count of 4. And then I let it go for a count of 4, and I hold it empty for a count of 4. Let's give that a go. We breathe in, hold, breathe out, and hold. Now, when you get good at this, you can breathe in for 8, hold for 8, and let go. And that really it starts to slow down your heartbeat just a little bit. It starts to tell your body that you're okay. Because one of the stress things that happens when you're not sure if you're okay is you get tunnel vision. So your heart starts really going for it. You get tunnel vision, and your brain sends out chemicals that says, right, all the hormones to the arms and legs, because we're either fighting something here or we're running. And the reality is you're doing neither. You're just talking to HMRC. But you don't know that, and your brain doesn't know that. And when we lived in caves, it'd have the opportunity to have the fight or the run, and that would get rid of all the adrenaline, and then you'd be fine. But instead, you get over that hurdle, and then you're doing it again. So things like breathing will really help with that. So if you think, oh, I've got to have that conversation, think about your breathing. Because it'll also give the opportunity to pause. You don't need to respond to everything instantly. I know we want to because we want to be helpful. But actually, pausing gives people an opportunity to respond. It means that you've taken the time and you're holding the space. And it's one of the first things as therapists that you learn. You don't need to talk over every second. So having that little bit of space and breathing is my first tip for you. The next thing is counting, and we like a bit of that, don't we? So there is actually a way of doing this, and counting. So how you do that is similarly, just shake your shoulders a bit, let yourself relax. And leave your feet planted on the ground. And now in your mind, count to 10, and you think, what? But the moment you have a thought, I need you to start from 1. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to give that a go, and you can close your eyes if you want to. How easy or hard is that? I once saw a SEMA qualified accountant who said to me, I tried that, I got to 5, and I went, I'm doing really well, and I thought, I've had a thought. 1, 2, 3, this isn't bad. 1, 2, 3. So when it comes to letting things go out of your mind, think about doing the counting one, if that fits for you. Another one is to focus on your hands. So quite often before going into a really big meeting, I'll do this one. And that means set yourself a timer on your phone for a minute and just look at your hands. And you'll think, why am I doing that? Well, what it is that when you are stressed, when you need to get focused and when you need to get everything else out of your head, you need to replace it with something physical. And that's quite a good way of doing it. So focus on your hands, and you can move your hands or just look at them, but just focus on your hands. And the moment you get a thought, just remind yourself that you are just looking at your hands. And if you've set yourself a timer for a minute or 2 minutes, you'll be surprised how long that feels. But you'll also be surprised that because you'll start to notice things on your hand, that actually by the end of that you are a lot calmer. So focusing on your hands is a good one. Another one's mindful walking. Has anybody heard of mindful walking? Hey, I love mindful walking. So you might be thinking, what's one of them then? Well, I shall tell you. So that is about being present where you are. Now, about 30% of the people here will be kinesthetic learners, which means that they learn by doing, not by listening or seeing. So for the kinesthetic people, actually going for a walk's a really good idea because it means their body's doing something. And you'll know if you're kinesthetic because if you go into somewhere, you're sort of going like, oh yeah, I like that, and you can't keep your hands off it because you're like, oh, I wonder what that's, oh, it's cold, nice. These are kinesthetic people. And so actually mindful walking is really good if you fall into that bracket. So when you mindful walk, you do this. You take your heel and you roll it very slowly onto the ball. And then you take your next step and you do the same. And as you do this, you concentrate on your breathing. You concentrate on noticing what's around you at the exclusion of everything else. But by concentrating on your feet, you're not concentrating on what's going on in here. Now, this is a really good thing to do if you go out for a walk and you think, well, I'd quite like to listen to podcasts or things like that. You can do it as you're podcasting. Slow down your walking, and it slows down your mind. So after mindful walking, what's the next thing we can do? Well, the other one I call sensory, and you can do that anywhere at all. And that is to engage all of your senses. Because what happens when you are stressed, or what happens when you're under that degree of pressure, is that we tend to just focus on the one thing. And that can be the one thing we've just heard, or the one thing that we've just seen. So this brings all of your senses in together. So when we look at this, what we say is, sit down with a cup of tea or coffee. I'd like to do this first thing in the morning normally. Sit down with a cup of tea or coffee, give yourself 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and think about the world around you. How does it feel? Are you hot or cold? What can you smell? Can you smell the coffee? Is it lovely? And enjoy it. What can you see? Can you see the birds? Can you see pictures of your family? And have a think about all of your senses. What does it feel like? Is your coffee cup hot? And take that 5 minutes to be absolutely present. Because if there's one thing that we do know when it comes to mental health, when it comes to dissipating any stress, is that people that are stressed are tending to be living either in the past, because they can't let go of that person who said that the other day. and I'm still angry. Or they're worried about the future. But one thing they're not is living here and now. So mindfulness is about combating that. So the next thing, having calmed your brain, is to have a think about what your body's doing. Now, obviously, we can go for sleep. We can look at hydration. We can look at food. We can look at all of these things. And we're adults. We know about 5 fruit and veg and stuff like that. But when we're busy, we don't bother. When we're busy, we're like, yeah, I'll do that in the new year. Ish, maybe. So I wanted to share with you something that you could do tonight. And that is to get more rest. And that is a way of sleeping. Now, how many people here actually sleep for 8 or 9 hours a night, every night? Have we got a few? We do have a few. And what about 6 or 7? Yeah? Yeah, so got a few. I won't ask who's less than 6, other than people, obviously, with small children. But this can be really difficult, particularly when you've got a lot going on, is how do you get better sleep? And it's something that I get asked often. And so you use the rest program. So the first thing is you start with your routine. Now, anybody who's had small children will know that the best thing you can do is get them in a routine straight away, as quickly as you can. So they will go to bed at a certain time, and I would encourage you to do the same. I'm not saying you've got to go to bed at, 6:30 after in the night garden, but, pick your time, 10 o'clock at night, whenever. But go to bed at the same time, because your body gets into a rhythm. So I know we all want a box set binge, I know, but if you're trying to improve your sleep, then try and get yourself into a rhythm. The next thing is to think about the environment that you are sleeping in. And again, when you're dealing with a baby, you try and make the room dark and comfortable and not too hot and not too cold. And then when it comes to us, we just throw ourselves into the bed that we got out of the day before. And it doesn't matter how light it is, we just try and, just gotta go and try and have some sleep now anyway. And quite often it doesn't work, and we can be lying there. Or if we wake up in the night, then we're lying there and thinking, how's this going to work? So think about your environment. Is it comfortable? Is your mattress comfortable? Is your pillow comfortable? When was the last time you thought about it? And yet, funnily enough, it's something you use every single day. And yet we don't think about it. We just assume it's okay. So the next thing is about stimulation. So if we go back to our baby analogy again, are you going to feed it hot, spicy food and then send it to bed? No. Have you fed yourself hot, spicy food and sent yourself to bed? Probably. Nicely washed down with a few beers or half a bottle of wine. And then we wonder why we can't sleep. So, and as you get older, of course, you have the reflux to add to all the other things. But anyway, we won't go to that. So the stimulation thing is actually how much coffee you're having, how much caffeine are you having. If you're having difficulty with sleep or you want to have better quality sleep, have a think about that. Have a think about what you're eating. And give yourself 2 or 3 days a break. Just see if you can make it work for you. And the final thing is thinking. Self-fulfilling prophecy is where we think something so much we actually make it happen. And quite often, when people are bad sleepers, they will say, yeah, I can't sleep. Can't sleep. And then you lie down and you go, yeah, I'm not sleeping, am I? Well, I can't sleep. So I would encourage you to change your thinking. And rather than, yes, you can lie there and go, yeah, I can sleep. And then a part of you will be going, no, you can't. Another way of doing that, probably slightly more productive, is to think about all the good things that have happened today. So when you go to bed tonight, think about the good speakers that you've seen today. Think about all the people you've met that you haven't seen for ages and it's all been really good. Think about all the lovely stuff that's happened today. Not about the traffic jam or about the fact that your partner half drove you to Swindon when you were supposed to be here for 9:30. Think about the good things, because that will give you a bit of an endorphin rush and that will help you to sleep. So those are some ideas around that. Now, the other things that I said actually was my first foray, if you like, into well-being was around spirit. It was around community. And if we go back to what I was saying earlier around the ACCA and IFAC responses about Gen Z, about the new generation coming through, they actually want community more than you'd realise. Because this is probably the last community. When I started in accountancy, there was lots of things going on, lots of things you could join in, and it's all very physical stuff. You could go to a physical networking thing here, you could join. We had so many things. Maybe you've joined your local church or synagogue or whatever. Maybe you were involved in other communities. And you look at this generation coming through, and you are their community. It's you. If you're lucky, it's your professional bodies, if you belong to one. But you are their community. And they may not know their neighbours. They may live a long way away from their family. And so it's you. And that's a really good thing. Because as much as we all love being here today, they love being with you. So I know that we all get to a certain stage and all the working from home and go, I don't need to wear proper shoes, I'm finding the shoes for today, oh my God. I don't need to wear proper clothes, it's brilliant. But have a think about how you form community with the people that you work with. How do you form community with your clients and deal with that part of their needs? Because isn't this the thing that we really missed during lockdown? We missed each other. Well, I missed going out for dinner as well, but we missed each other. And so have a think about how you could replace that or how you can encourage that with your teams. How can you encourage them to be together, to actually enjoy each other's company, to find out more about each other? And you might decide, what, we could do a little bit of a challenge. We might do a challenge around walking. We might sign up to Strava.com and do a walking challenge, and then everybody, no matter where they are, can plug into it, and we get a bit of a leaderboard, and it gives us something to talk about. It gives us some common ground. But wherever that common ground is, this is the real heart, actually, to keeping your staff. So find it. And if you're not sure, ask them questions. Ask them what it is that they'd like. Ask them what it is that they love about working with you. Because it's probably not what you think it is. You probably think, well, I'm paying for their exams. No, that might not be it. It might be something completely different. So form community with the people around you. And be grateful. I am grateful for every day that I can stand up. And that seems like a very small thing. Most people are grateful when they get over the line at, the London Marathon or something. But I'm grateful every day that I actually get out of bed and I can stand up and I can dress myself, because that wasn't always the case. And so if you're thinking, what's the best thing I can do for my well-being now? Think of 10 things you're grateful for. Is it the people you stood next to when you were out there? Is it the goodie bags that you've picked up? It's been some very good goodie bags. Have you had a look? I've had a look. But think about what you're grateful for. Because those small things, at the end of the day, are the big things. They're the things that when you think about it, you thought, oh, you know what? I'm glad, actually, I've got a car, and my car is quite reliable. And when you think, I don't know, I'd struggle to find 10 things I'm grateful for, then ask your other half, or ask your best friend what they're grateful for. And they may well say something that makes you think, yeah, do you know what? I'm grateful for my kids too. Drive me nuts, but I'm grateful for them. And that whole mindset and that whole thinking of gratitude could well change your life. Because in the days when I didn't have very much that was working for me, I had to concentrate on what I did have and not on what I didn't have. Because if you concentrate on what you don't have, at the end of the day, that's all your brain will see. It will see all that lack. Oh, they're doing that, I can't do that. They're doing that, I can't do that. Whereas if you concentrate on what you do have, that can be truly life-changing. As can having a vision. I don't mean, waking up in the morning and having a look at your cereal and going, I can see the Almighty. I don't mean that sort of vision. The vision I mean is having a vision for your life. And you might go, I'm an accountant. I'm going to be doing what I do, and that's that. But you're so much more than that. So what else is it you want in your life? Because if you're not clear of how you wish to spend your time or what you want in your life, other people do it for you. They go, I've volunteered you for this. In the days before I had a clear vision, I'd end up doing all sorts of stuff for other people, and that'd be lovely for them. Not so great for me. But have a clear vision of what you want. And what I can guarantee, there's a part of the brain called the reticular activator. And once you've set your goal for what you want, your brain is really clever. It goes and finds it for you. So if you think, like I did, I've red shoes, nobody will have red shoes. Love them. Love them, I've got red shoes. I see them everywhere now, because my brain goes, yeah, she likes red shoes, so there's some over there, some over there. And that's what your brain does. It's called the reticular activator. So concentrate on what you want. What do you want more of? And we're coming up to the end of this year. We're going to go into another amazing year. What do you want? Because if you're not clear, somebody else will take that time and you'll be delivering what they want. So have your personal vision and think about your values. When it comes to where you are, where you work, how you do things, have you communicated your values to your customers? Have you communicated them to your team? Because this is one of the other things that's come out in some of the Gen Z research, is that they want to know. They want to know that you're an ethical business that really lives it, if that's what you are. But have you thought about it? And have you asked them what they think your values are, so that you can get a vision for the whole business that fits and is what it is? I did one of these workshops a little while ago with 2 organisations moving together. And the new company that was coming in, everyone was very, they're going to take it all over, we're going to have to be like them. And actually, when we talked about values, they really valued how this other company operated. And it was quite the opposite. They didn't want to take over. They didn't want to change it. They wanted to be it. But if you don't have that conversation, how do you know? And if you want to start having a conversation about well-being, it can be a really good place to start. What do we value about here? What do we do well? What do we want to tell the world about? Because it will also give you a greater sense of self. You've had a thankless task for the last few years, a really, really thankless task. You've had to do extra paperwork. You've had to make excuses for when things haven't gone right. You've had to do all of that, and you've had to shoulder it. But when you think about your values, that's when you go, yeah, but do you know what? I'm really good at what I do, and I do this for them. So the last thing I just wanted to say is, well, if I'm doing all this extra stuff, I'm getting good sleep, I'm concentrating on that, and I'm getting my team together on a sense of community, how am I going to fit it all in? Well, you need to have a look at your time, and we're good at measuring how we spend our time. But are we really? And do we line it to our values? And all I would say about this is, yeah, we all know we've got to prioritise and certain things need to get done first. But what I would say is, what are you going to let go of? What is it that you could delegate to somebody else, that you could train somebody else to do, that would be great for them and great for you? And it goes back to me, going back to the VAT returns, every time I think, I don't know, it feels a bit safer over here. What have you got that you do that with? And could you actually delegate that to someone else? Could you put yourself in that little stretch zone and let it go? Or can you eliminate some of the things where you go, do you know what, I've been trying this social media stuff, I'm no good at it, don't do it then. Your life, you make the rules. Because everyone else is doing it, you don't have to do it. But you've got to have that vision. You've got to have that vision of what works for you. So at the beginning I asked, how do you take care of you? And I hope that this little jaunt through my story has given you a few more ideas of how you can actually put together something that's more meaningful with well-being for yourself and for the people around you, using mind, body, spirit, and vision. You've all been really lovely. We've had nobody running out. I noticed things like that. We've had no process stations or issues. And so for that, I am truly grateful. And I'll be around for a few hours afterwards if anyone wants to come and have a chat. Thank you so much for listening.